The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Former astronaut Buzz Aldrin is in a really horrible situation. I've actually followed this off and on while it's been going on. And Buzz Aldrin is in a legal battle with his own kids. And what they're arguing about is control of Buzz Aldrin's finances and his company, Buzz Aldrin Enterprises, and his nonprofit called the ShareSpace Foundation. And what Aldrin's lawyer is saying is that two of his kids are taking advantage of the 88-year-old. His family says his mental health is in decline and that he's confused, so that he does need help. And it's unclear exactly who's being honest and upfront here. And this is the guy who went to the moon, and he is now 88 years old. He is having some cognitive decline. The word dementia is being thrown around. And now he is suing two of his own children to regain control of his finances and his company. This is just horrible, right? This is, you hate to see this stuff.
It's so sad and so depressing because
Yep.
Buzz Aldrin's, what, 88 years old, as you said?
Yep.
And, you know, you have to assume he's in the final days of his life. That's the last thing you'd think someone would want to be doing, right?
I
Having
don't
a
know if
legal
he's
battle
actually
with
in the
his
final
kids.
days. I know that he's experiencing cognitive decline, but physically, I don't know. Maybe he's doing okay.
Maybe suffering from Alzheimer's, maybe, you know, that could be terminal. That's one of the leading causes of death.
Sure.
I'm just saying that's the last thing you want to deal with in your final days, having a battle with your kids over something like this, and
Absolutely.
in public, too.
Is Alzheimer's a leading cause of death?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh. That's depressing also, I'll say. So this is not going well. And basically the battle is around mental health, right? Because all of this is about, you need to establish his level of cognitive capacity in order to justify decision A, B, C, or D in terms of who gets to make decisions on his behalf and regarding companies and so on. And it just is a nightmare. And, you know, I know that estate attorneys will say, you want to get your estate in order early to prevent exactly these types of situations. Doesn't always work. And estate type battles and battles like this can be some of the, they tear families apart. And I have a friend who is an estate attorney, and he has told me, of course, without giving me any names and violating any attorney-client privilege, just really horrible situations that can happen around these situations, healthcare proxies, wills and estates. Nightmare, absolute nightmare.
And of course, you know, we haven't independently assessed Buzz Aldrin's cognitive ability.
We have no idea.
We don't know if he's actually experiencing any decline, but apparently he's still traveling to conferences and talking about the importance of going to Mars, maybe having a Mars colony. So if he's able to give those talks, you have to assume he can do basic tests that they test for, right? Like, you know, can he make toast too? I think so.
I would think so. But, you know, sometimes you do have situations where individuals, I mean, here's an example. I know someone whose grandfather has moderately advanced Alzheimer's, doesn't remember what's going on. You tell him Trump is president, just doesn't remember from 5 minutes to the next, does not remember. But they worked in a very specific field that was in science. And if you ask them questions about formulas, how the person conceived of certain inventions, what the rationale was for one type of design versus another, they will sound like a completely lucid and cognitively there person. But then all of a sudden you say, hey, did you have lunch this morning? What did you have for lunch? I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, that's so crazy. So if they could still solve scientific formulas, but they can't make toast or remember what they have for lunch, should they be able to have control over their estate, decide who gets their inheritance? Who knows, right?
I really don't know.
It's an open question.
I don't know the answer to that, but it is absolutely horrible. Paris. I am going to be spending some time in Paris in a few months for a very interesting work project. And there is a stern warning that I have received loud and clear about possible meat consumption while I am in Paris. French butchers are demanding security protection because of some vegan attacks on butcher shops. Vegans choosing to, I guess, make their opposition to meat eating known by breaking windows, throwing fake blood, and spraying graffiti on butcher shops. Butchers are now sick and tired of it, and they are saying, we need to be protected here.
Yeah, there are some vegan groups denouncing this, though, too. It kind of overlaps with our discussion about, you know, if we should aggressively protest, harass, intimidate Trump officials in a sense, because, you know, a lot of vegans out there think that there's an atrocity being committed by these butchers, and they have to act in kind, not only speak out against it, but also do something more physical, be it throwing fake blood at their establishments or, I don't know, what else, preventing people from coming in?
Well, I mean, let's think about it. What does the term nonviolent mean, right? I mean, breaking windows is that is a crime that it's not a violent crime against a person, but that does start to border into violent crime, right?
Yeah.
That's not calling someone and saying, I don't want you to sell meat. Spraying blood on the restaurant in the United States, I think that would be considered vandalism. So I think it also would be a crime. And then graffitiing is in the United States, it's also against the law. It's defacing of property. So these are strictly speaking crimes. It is different than showing up and yelling shame at Kristen Nielsen, for example. But again, it's France, so the laws may be different.
And I was going to say, because this is France, that after all, you could interpret some of this stuff as violent speech, you know? So that's another angle to consider here. Even just the speaking out could be regarded as illegal.
I don't think that this is going to go too far. I think that French police, in a country where there are lots of I don't know if this is the right word, but using meat in French cuisine is sacred. It is a staple of French cuisine. It's hard for me to imagine that law enforcement authorities are going to allow this to go too much further. I think that the vegan activists, if they want to keep breaking windows, are going to very quickly find themselves in jail.
Yeah, that's probably true. I visited Paris just a couple months ago, and it was pretty hard to find vegan options. I think, if countries are going to fall one by one, go from a meat-eating community to a vegan community, we're going to see France be one of the last to fall, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even being vegetarian in France is actually easy. Vegan does seem difficult, though, because they're known for their great omelets. They're known for their quiche.
The crepes.
They are known for crepes. They are known for croissants, which, of course, have butter in them. I mean, being vegetarian would be no sweat for me. Being pescatarian would be no sweat for me in France. But I don't know that I could go to France and be vegan. So my plan for when I go to France in a few months is I am not going to be vegan.
Okay, so are you going to be visiting any butcher shops? What do you do if you show up to one and there are these crazy vegan protesters outside?
I can't imagine. I can't imagine that I would go to a butcher shop. I think I will be. I'm going to be there long enough that I will go to grocery stores, but I don't really eat much red meat at all, and I don't see myself going to a butcher shop for any reason other than maybe just curiosity to see what it's like. Distracted driving. We've talked about distracted driving in Boston. It's atrocious. It's truly a disaster. And there's a new study released by the AAA's Foundation for Traffic Safety, which is pointing to some of the worst distracted driving in a long time, arguably in history, as related to mobile phones in the car, infotainment systems built into vehicle consoles, things that demand attention when you should be watching the road. It all makes driving more dangerous if you're not paying attention. And I don't think we needed a study to tell us this, but it's really bad. I can spot, I've said it a bunch of times, when I am well behind a car on the highway, I see a car in the fast lane of the highway going 65, which is the speed limit, but you don't go 65 in the fast lane. I know that they're on their phone, and I will switch to the middle lane and pass them, and I will look over, and they are looking at their phone. It is a danger. When I see people in Boston riding in the middle of two lanes, I know that they're on their phones, and I manage to get around them, making a big show out of how inconvenient their driving is for everybody else, and they're messing with their phone. It is a disaster, and it is a true public health risk.
There was a study connected to this article which showed that 17 to 22-year-olds, while driving, are on their phone about 18% of the time.
1/5.
That's crazy. I mean, some of that could be being stopped at red lights, but even that could be problematic, especially if you take your foot off the brake and you start rolling forward. That could easily cause an accident too.
Absolutely. One of the pieces of software that's mentioned is CarPlay. There's Android CarPlay and Apple CarPlay. My car has this. Apparently, you can put like games on it. I didn't realize this at all. Yeah. All I've ever used it for is Google Maps. My car doesn't have Google Maps, obviously, because it's a car. I don't know. And by using my phone with the Android CarPlay, the phone's Google Maps get put up on the screen like it's an app.
Yeah.
That's all I've ever thought to put on there. But apparently people are using CarPlay to put in other stuff.
Like,
maybe not games, but like YouTube video. I don't know what it is.
That's
I've never
weird.
even seen that. It's crazy.
It's fine if the passenger was watching some of that stuff, but the driver could look over too. If a YouTube video is playing, that's going to be distracting.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the middle console. There's no
Yeah.
way to enforce who's looking at it. This is horrible. And actually, I would be part of my support of self-driving cars is how bad people's driving is because of distracted driving and mobile phones. There seems to be no way to enforce that unless all manufacturers say, we are going to put in some system that makes the phones not work while you're in the car, which of course they really can't do because what if you're a passenger in the car? You should be able to use your phone. Part of the reason to have a phone is to make an emergency phone call. So if you can't use the phone while you're in the car, I don't know any way that it could be done. So I think that self-driving cars are the way forward.
Yeah, because the other solutions that we're trying to come up with don't seem to be working. I mean, this like car technology integration with having stuff show up in the dash or the center console, or whatever, that doesn't seem to be working either. I mean, it's like an extra step from using our phones that we can put in our pockets and bring out. Maybe that's a little bit safer, but not too much more.
It's clearly not making the streets safer based on the statistics. So I don't actually know what the solution is going to be to this distracted driving issue. It's a disaster. I am finding myself to be more skittish than ever when I drive around and less trusting than ever of other drivers because of the frequency with which other drivers are just totally distracted on phones or mobile devices of other kinds.
Yeah, I never had any close calls using my phone while driving because if I did it at all, it would be like stopped at a red light, and there's really no excusing that, but I am human after all.
Sure.
The one close call I've ever had when it comes to distracted driving was just looking at the sunset. Outside, there was a beautiful view.
Wow.
I saw this lovely body of water. Sun was setting. I looked at it for a little bit too long. I look back at the road, and I'm about to hit a car. Got to slam on the brakes, got to swerve, and luckily I avoided an accident, but it was a close call.
Wow, that is a horrible story of depravity and immorality for sure. Okay, so listen, don't do this stuff. Don't be on your phone when you drive. If you have to send a text, if it's that important, make sure you are completely stopped at a red light. I don't even know why I bother. I mean, it's like just people don't care. People are doing this all over the place, and it's absolutely a danger. Send me your thoughts. How can we deal with this problem of distracted driving?
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.